An artist draws inspiration from many sources. For me, I believe that oftentimes things I read sets my mind wandering over fields of the imagination, rich with visual images. Of course, for many people, the inspiring verbal vignette that tells the story of the footprints in the sand has long been a favorite. I've often heard collectors refer to it in my events and ask me when I might attempt a visual recreation of this wonderful story. Footprints in the Sand was inspired by visits along the central Pacific coast in California, in particular the coastal town of Pismo Beach with its classic wooden pier and the dramatic sense of light found during sunset. For my painting, I turned the clock back on the pier itself, envisioning an earlier day. This is a timeless moment. Families and friends gather on the pier, fishermen gather to cast their line, and children play and cavort. Seagulls and other coastal birds soar overhead. We see sailboats on the horizon, and of course, in the waves, the ever-present California surfer. I see Footprints in the Sand as a very allegorical painting. Humanity attempts to reach into the horizons aboard its fragile pier. Human constructions often fail to give substance. In fact, allegories from holy writings often suggest that our feeble attempts to please God are often limited by our human failings. The painting becomes a contrast between the human and the sublime. In nature, we see that which is permanent and constant. The ever-present flowing of the tides, the crash of incoming waves, and breezes that cause the stately flag overhead to ripple in the wind. Clouds blow overhead, suggesting the radiance of day's end. The cycle of day and night and the passing seasons remind us that nature itself is ever-changing but constant. As the waves come in, the footprints each day are washed away. So the footprints we see in the sand are fresh, suggesting visitors who have just passed by. In the story, we are told that the footprints converge as the two sets of prints become one. We are made to understand that in the single set of footprints, we see evidence of God's grace. For in the single prints, we are aware that God Himself has gathered His frail child on His back and made a way forward. The serenity of the scene and the timelessness of the theme of coastal waters and sunset make this painting a rich symbol for the human experience. Our activities are as fleeting as the wispy clouds that dance overhead. Our voices and thoughts are as transient as the cry of the seagulls that soar above. The waves of God's timeless love ultimately wash away all that we call life. And yet what remains is the brilliance of light, the verdant richness of the earth itself, and the ever-present passing of time. Footprints in the Sand is truly a painting to inspire the heart. As we look at our own lives, often busy and hectic, perhaps even chaotic, we need to take moments of prayer to be reminded that God's provision will enable us to get through even the most difficult times. On a more simple aesthetic level, I believe that Footprints in the Sand is a reminder of the refreshment that comes to the soul by visiting the ocean and gazing out on its eternal waters. There's something beautiful about a sunset over the ocean. To me as an artist, it literally speaks directly to my heart and reminds me that God is in His heavens and all is right with the world. As you dim the lights on this painting, you begin to see richer palettes emerge. The colors get more radiant and the sun, if possible, appears ever more dazzling. Then, as the dusk seems to be passing, we once again raise the light level on the painting to suggest the dawning of another day. I enjoyed putting small details that suggest the passing of the years. A weathered sailor's bell rises above the pier, perhaps hearkening back to a day when the bell would be used as a signal to sailors of incoming inclement weather. The tiny sailboats dance on the waves, reminiscent of the forms of the seagulls as they soar above. The ever-present and very humble pelican lands on the water and gathers with his friends. These humble birds seem unfazed by all the beauty and stay constant to their task of searching for fish beneath the waters. Sandpipers dance upon the shore, leaving their own footprints in the sand. And the foamy waves ebb and flow, to me reminiscent of the goodness of God's provision. For wasn't his story of the manna in the wilderness an ample reminder of his provision that is always constant, even in times of distress? Footprints in the Sand, I hope, will be a classic painting that will inspire many, much as the poem of the same name has done. Perhaps as you gaze upon it, you will be reminded that no matter how deep the pain, how trying the challenge, God is there with you, providing comfort, strength, and the courage to go on. This is Thomas Kinkade, thanking each of you for sharing the light. God bless.